Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad that y'all are here. I missed y'all last week. I really did. I felt like the days were going so slow. I was like, I'm so ready to do this next video because for one thing, it's on somebody that I'd never heard of before, and it's a little bit of magic, a little bit of murder, a little bit of cult. I mean, it's got a little bit of everything in it. But anyway, if you're new here, my name is Brandy. And every week I like to do witch history, and I do my makeup at the same time. I don't really tell you what I'm putting on my face or anything. I just kind of talk, tell you the story, and then, if you want to know what I used, I'll put it down below in the description. But that's what I do here at least once or twice a week. So if that sounds awesome to you, definitely hit that subscribe button if you don't mind, as I'm trying to grow. This has just been so much fun for me, and I'm having a blast. So I want you guys to have a blast with me. But anyway, let's go ahead and get this party started. It's definitely a wild one, and I'll try to take you guys down the best way I know how. Okay. So here's the setting. It's like 1910. And we are going along the railroad, and there's somebody lurking around the railroad area, and they are making their way from Texas all the way through Louisiana to Mississippi, and they're committing crimes. What they're doing is they actually killed up to 12 black families, like not just one person in the family, the whole ass family. Okay? These killings went on for a long time. Now, who we're talking about today is the one who says she's behind it all. And this is somebody I never heard of before. So, I don't know, maybe this will be new to you guys, because it was definitely new to me. Her name is Clementine Barnabet. And Clementine, she ain't had the best upbringing, okay? I know I just dropped a ball on y'all about some murders, and then I just go on into Clementine. But hey, we'll get back to the murders here in just a little bit. So we have Clementine Barnabet, and she is a housekeeper. She was born in Louisiana, and she doesn't have the best home life. She was a baby out of wedlock, and another bad thing was that the girlfriend, her mom, lived with her dad, but they weren't married. And that was kind of looked at, that was kind of frowned upon back there in the day. You should be married, especially if you have children together. I mean, I'm just saying that for like back in the day or whatnot. She didn't have that great of a home life. Her dad was a drunk. He was a sharecropper, but he was very abusive. He was very abusive to their mom, because Clementine had some brothers and sisters, of course. One very important sibling is going to be Zeppelin, because that's her brother, and he ends up getting in trouble along with her. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself, so I need to slow it down. Clem and her family moved to Lafayette, Louisiana in 1909. And they did that to, I guess the sharecropper was taking them there, the sharecropping and things like that. But, so that is how Clementine gets to Lafayette. Well, these murders start happening in 1910, and they come to Louisiana. Now, in these murders, okay, it's actually kind of fascinating because it made me think of American Horror Story again. But the way the people were, killed was by an axe, in every situation. And in every situation, every single person in the family was, hit with an axe. Now, they hit with the blunt side of the axe, as a matter of fact. So it's not as gory as you would think, but he still did. Whoever it was, still didn't. That's a lot, like an axe. You gotta have a lot of rage to do that. But anyway, I'm jumping ahead. So they moved to Lafayette in 1909. Now, this family down the street from them, the Andrus family, something like that, they lived right down the road from them, and they ended up getting killed while they were sleeping, I guess. The whole entire family, just like I said earlier, the whole entire family gets axed, okay? And everybody is freaking out, you know? And so for some reason, Clementine and her brother decide to say that their dad, Raymond, that's their dad's name, that Raymond Barnabet was the one that did it. They said that we saw him coming from their house with bloody clothes, you know, and like all this other kind of stuff. So anyway, they give, but there's others that testify as well, like his girlfriend Dina, their mom. She said he didn't come home with any blood on his clothes or anything, you know. He is very violent, but that night he did not come home with anything on his clothes. But they took the word of Clementine and her brother, and they put him in jail and arrested him and put him on trial. So while Raymond is in jail, another killing happens. Another whole entire family goes down. Yeah. And it's the Norbert family. And this time, I think that the Norbert, he was actually shot in this instance. He wasn't, because up until now, it's been axe murders. This person has killed families with an axe. And now, all of a sudden, they killed Norbert and the Randalls and blah, 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 and all their kids. They had 4 kids, killed them all. And this is while Raymond was in jail. And so, anyway, Raymond still goes on trial for the first family. And they find him guilty of it, even though they have like no evidence. And so he gets an appeal pretty quick. Okay. And like I say, other things are happening now. His daughter is starting to run her mouth. Okay. Clementine. Yes. She's basically the next family that gets killed is actually some people that she works for. She's a housekeeper, like I told you guys earlier. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when she was working for the Randalls, now Clem was arrested the same day that they, of course, found the bodies, because they said that they searched her things and they found bloody clothing, like a bloody apron, bloody clothes, bloody, like everything is just like, even underwear. They found blood and supposedly brain matter as well on her clothes. And so, of course, she gets arrested and she gets put in jail. Now, she's like a teenager. She's like 18 years old. She doesn't have that great of an upbringing. Now she's in jail, where at this time it was nothing but white people that would control the courts. So she's up against that. So she begins to spin some tales. And these tales are fantastic, you guys. I'm not even going to lie to you when I say it. Like, yeah. Now, when Clem gets arrested, she actually denies that she had anything to do with this. They're thinking that she did it. They're thinking that Raymond sent her to go do this, like her and her brother, to go kill this family while he was in jail. But, of course, they found the bloody clothes and things like that. She is adamant she's not guilty, you know. But then she stays in jail for a while, and then by the time her first trial, this is her first trial, because she ends up having 2, she starts to confess to some things, okay? And these things are not of what a sane person would say. Like, as she's giving her confession, she's rocking back and forth, you know, basically saying that she's the one that's killed all these people. It was her. And she's the leader of the cult, and it's called the Church of Sacrifice. And the reason why she killed these people was because they weren't believing in God correctly, or they wouldn't do what I think it's because they wouldn't do what the church says. So she did that. But she was saying that there were sacrifices for this church that she ran, supposedly, when it was actually just a cult. Now, this church only had like 105 members, supposedly. I cannot find anything else on this church except for when I click on her name. There's no other evidence this church existed, but it was on Lake Charles. She was the high priestess of this church, right? And this is what she's telling them, you know. She's like, I got a charm bag. Yeah, a voodoo charm bag. And it makes me invisible. Yeah. It makes me invisible so that I can't be detected when I do these crimes, which is why none of you guys saw me do it, you know. Anyways, and so they're eating this up like they always do, you know. I mean, somebody confesses, you know, you're gonna. I mean, I guess they're confessing, and I guess they did it, you know. You think, but you got to think she was also under pressure there for a while too. Now, at this point in time, her dad is let out of jail because they realized like this girl's confessed, you know. They found bloody clothes on her. You know, now they have a confession, but she is just not mentally sound. Not in my personal opinion, but you know, here we are. I think she was saying that she was 18 years old. I think she was saying these things to get some kind of attention because she never had any before. She was probably, like I say, shunned in her community because her mom and dad weren't married and they lived together and they had her, a kid, you know, and the other ones too. And so, anyway, there was also blood on the back entrance of the gate of the place that she worked at. And so they took that as evidence of her running from the scene. And then, of course, they found all the bloody clothes. Well, now we're talking about her confession. And so she says that the Church of Sacrifice is an offshoot of Christ Sanctified Holy Church congregation. Like, she's saying this isn't that church, but we're a part of that church. And this church is actually famous for something else that's kind of disturbing. I'm not gonna lie. Now, also in her confession, she said that her brother helped her and two other men named Edwin Charles and Gregory Porter. Okay. She said that she was helped by them to go and do these murders and things like that. Now, I'm giving you guys her confession first before I tell you what happened because it's just kind of pertinent to the story. The things that she says, it just kind of shows how she was really, there's no way, I'll let y'all, you know, I'm going to let you guys figure it out, okay? That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to let y'all figure it out. Another guy she named was actually the reverend of the church, the offshoot of the church. No, not the offshoot, the actual church, the council of whatever I said that was. They were actually infamous for the killing of in 1907, of a white police officer. That church was. Yeah, they got in trouble for that. That was their little deal. He said that the reverend of that church, not of the Church of Sacrifice, but of the church that actually is there and, you know, still there. After she gives her confession, by the end of January in 1912, 26 families, African-American families, have been killed in their home at night, only at night, with an axe, okay? And now, she started to, like I say, she started to crack under pressure in the first trial because, like, she's probably been in jail for a long time, and I'm sure jail wasn't that great back then for them. Her brother gets arrested when she implicates him. Yeah. When she says, yeah, my brother was there with me, so they arrest him too. Now, the other guys, of course, the Reverend guy had an alibi. Like, he wasn't involved in this at all. He was not involved. But so she has her hearing after she says all these things, and then she takes her confession back. She's like, no. Erase all that. Erase it all. Yeah, that didn't happen. That's what she says. Well, on April 2nd, Clem decides to give another confession, and this time it's a little bit more buck wild than the first one. Okay. Yeah, at first she said she was involved in 10 of the murders, right? Well, this time she's upped the number to 17. Okay. Saying that she personally did 17, but actually it was like 36, and, you know, other people helped from the Church of Sacrifice, you know, the cult or whatever that she was supposedly the leader of. Yeah. Then she said then the body count she kept going up. Her story changed so much. And I'm going to show you guys why. Trust me when I say. I'm going to show y'all how it changes and how what she says doesn't even match up to the evidence that they have. And so she's really kind of just saying things. She's reading the newspaper for one. So she's getting things from the paper. Paper prints everything. Everything that happens in the world, it's in the newspaper during this time, So she said that she tested that, like I told y'all, she tested the little voodoo thing. She did. She tested that in rain when she killed like a mother and her child. And she supposedly got away with it. So she thought the charm bag, the voodoo charm bag actually worked. And she said that she got these from a hoodoo doctor in New Iberia. And her 4 accomplices all had these charm bags or conjure bags, whatever you want to say, that were supposedly give you couldn't be detected. You were invisible. Okay. I'm here to say that sounds like a great movie. It really does. You know what I mean? It sounds like a fantastic movie. And that doesn't sound like real life, But it is what it is. So, when I tell you guys that her evidence doesn't match the things that she said, first she said that she went through the front door of these people's houses. Now, none of these people's houses had just walked through the front door. No, that did not happen. They all came in like through a window, broke in, or something like that. It wasn't like they just strolled in the front door like she said. Okay. She also said, and this is a quote from her, from Clementine. I am the woman of the sacrifice sect. I killed them all, men, women, and babies, and I hugged the bodies to my heart. She's basically saying that like she cradled their head like as they died. Now, they had evidence that only one body was moved. And out of all these families that got killed, only one of the bodies was moved. So it's not possible that if she actually did kill 20 people, or if she just kept upping the number, is for her to have moved these bodies. It would have been shown, they would have been able to tell if the buckets, it was done with the axe, I mean, that's a lot of carnage. It's a lot of spatter. If you will, you feel me? That's a mess. That's a whole ass mess. She also liked to change details, like whenever the hell she felt like it. Okay, just letting you know. She would just be like, "Oh, I just read something in the paper," and then she would change what she said, pretty much. Yeah. And so a lot of people were taking her word with a grain of salt. They were like, I just don't feel like this is. It's not matching up with the evidence. But they end up going to trial anyway for a second time, okay? Because, first time she recanted, and they didn't have any evidence that she actually did it, so they couldn't really pin it on her the first time. And so the second now, she's saying, oh yeah, I did it. I did all these things. I am the leader of the Church of Sacrifice, and of course, the media takes this and runs with it. Like they start calling her the high priestess, of this supposed church, that we can't find any information about today. Basically, everything she said did not match up to what was to any of the crime scenes at all. She kept saying that her dad was involved in those first murders, but then she actually took that back and said that he was innocent, that I guess they were cool or whatnot. But now, she's saying now she had 105 followers at this supposed church. And, the crowd, it just keeps getting bigger. Her stories keep getting bigger. She keeps making up more and more things. So I got to tell you guys about the media because, newspapers are like everything back then. And they made up so many stories about Clementine. It was absolutely insane, all these stories they made up about her. They're the ones that deemed her the high priestess of the Church of Sacrifice. They were basically the ones saying that they were sacrificing people for their church And that's why they were doing these murders, these axe murders, these were sacrifices or whatnot. And trying to, I guess they riled back up that voodoo part in people that were like, oh, I'm a little bit freaked out, you know what I mean? And so they started calling her a high priestess. In one instance of one of the killings in one of the homes, somebody had written human 5, like on the wall, I'm guessing in blood, I'm not sure. And so that kind of gave the newspapers thinking, okay, so it's like, if you have 5 people in your family, then you're going to get killed, which doesn't match the evidence at all because, I mean, one of the families had 4 children and a husband and a wife, and that's 6 people. So you see how the stories don't match up, but it makes an interesting story. So she said that her first motive was to eliminate disobedient members from her church. And like I said, I guarantee these people would do what she said, and so she went and killed them because she's nuts. The newspaper gave false statements about Clem, saying that the killings were for worship purposes and perform rituals that would grant the church people immortality. Yeah. And one thing about that is true. She did have voodoo conjure bags. The only thing about her entire statement, that's the only part that's true, was that she did have these conjure bags. But these conjure bags didn't do what they said, what she said they did. They didn't, they weren't like, you can't be invisible, unless you're in the woods and you're in camo or something like that, and you're pretty much unseen. But you can never be invisible, Oh. So the media was having a blast with old Clementine. Yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, she probably enjoyed the attention because she was getting negative attention her whole entire life. Hey, for all we know, she might be getting better meals in jail, and that's why she just keeps saying stuff so she could stay there. Because we know her home life wasn't all that great. Just saying. The media continued to connect the ex-murders to this church of sacrifice or whatnot. Their last report was in November 23rd of 1912 when William Esley's wife and kids were killed in Mississippi. So now we've gone from, it started in Texas, came to Louisiana, and then now whoever it is has gone on to Mississippi, right? But they still have Clementine in jail for the ones in Louisiana. All right, we're going to trial, okay? We're in the trial now, and we've had some professionals come around and do some evaluations of our girl Clementine, okay? And they actually declare her sane for her trial. After everything that she said, she's doing the rocking back and forth, and she's making up anything and everything in order to get in trouble for these, just making things up, claiming that she's done these murders, right, in the name of her church of sacrifice. And she's not letting go of that. But they declare her sane. I don't think so. I don't think she was sane. I was actually shocked when I read that part. Because I was like, are you serious right now? You actually think this chick is sane enough to go to trial and actually go through all this? But anyway, her lawyer tried to say her confession was unreliable because she's not very mentally stable, guys. And it was a result of her abusive childhood, which makes total sense. It really does. We don't know what happened to her childhood. Her dad might have smacked her in the head so many times it might have jarred something loose. You feel me? I mean, I'm just saying, we don't know what happened in her childhood. But her lawyer did say that a lot of this had to do with that. And she's just like making up stories and like things like that, She was convicted. It didn't matter what they said. Child abuse or no. She was convicted and she was sent to the Louisiana State Penitentiary. And this is when it gets kind of weird. She's like a model inmate, right? Like an awesome inmate. Like she's helping other people and You know, she's trying to do all these things she wants to do. And after she gets a life sentence, but after 10 years, they let her go, knowing full well that if you're in your 20s, you are fully capable. We'll see. Yeah, she'd be like 28 at this time, almost 30. If she was really a serial killer, would she actually still be going out and still doing this stuff? Well, like I say, in Louisiana, the murders had ceased. They had stopped. They had moved on to somewhere else. And so they used her as a scapegoat, mostly because her stories were so fanatical. And then, of course, you got to throw some voodoo in there, some sacrifice. Yeah, some human sacrifice. You got to make it sound good for the public, right? But when they released her, they said that they did it because they had done a procedure on her to fix her. And it was not a lobotomy because that was not around yet. No, it was not. I had to look that up. So just remember that. She actually escaped from jail one time. Yeah, she did. She escaped, and she got in a lot of trouble. But other than that, like I say, she was a model inmate. Like, everybody liked her. And then all of a sudden, she was just released. They said that she was fine. You know, she was good to go. The courts accepted that, you know, she basically accepted that she didn't do anything. Now they're saying she didn't do anything, basically. That she's incompetent, ignorant, not smart at all, like just not, and just full of stories. So they basically used her as a scapegoat to make other people feel safe in their town, I guess you could say. You know, like, but why use this chick? I mean, the only thing that was true about her story was the conjure bags, which, I mean, anybody that does that kind of work can make a conjure bag. You feel me? So, anyway, after this, she disappears from history. We got another one. Yeah, Tita did the same thing. She bounced. So did this one. Yeah, Clementine was like, peace. I'm hoping that she went and lived her life and maybe had children and things of that matter, because the killings start happening in Mississippi and they kind of kept going. They never actually found the Axeman. That's why I say earlier I was talking about American Horror Story. This Axeman came through Louisiana and did a lot of horrible things, and he had nothing to do with blues. I don't know why this guy, whoever, did this, but somebody was a serial killer back in the early 1900s across the South. They killed people with an axe. That happened, okay? But it was not Clementine that did it. I think she might have known who did it because she was a servant. Servants be chatting. Servants be seeing everything, right? Back in the day. So maybe she's like, you know, making up these stories not only to gain the popularity, but to have her, I don't know. I don't know why she would make up all these stories unless she just really needed to stay in jail. Which kind of makes me sad that you feel like you're better off in jail than you are like living in your own home. Because when she started this up, she was 18. And when she was talking all this, and they let her out after 10 years, and she tried to escape one time, and they still let her out after 10 years. Basically saying she's an idiot and none of that happened. Like, what? All these people printed all these things in the newspaper about this voodoo priestess, this sacrificial church, you know, the church of sacrifice is this offset of this. I think she used that other church that got in trouble in 1907 just because they were easy as a scapegoat for her too, to be like, yeah, I made my own branch of that church. You know what I mean? This chick she gave she's nuts, okay? Now, a lot of people say that these murders that kept continually going were copycat murders of Clementine. Some people are still saying that she did these things, that she snuck in through the front door with her conjure bag, invisible, and killed whole families with an axe. I don't think so. I don't think so. But you have a great imagination, Clementine, let me tell you. The throwing of the voodoo in and things like that. That's the part that interests me the most. I was like, of course they have to throw that in. Like, and then human sacrifice. I mean, it just wouldn't be a story without human sacrifice, now would it? But yeah, this one really, I had never heard of her. And if she had been telling the truth, she would have been the first female serial killer in the United States, instead of it being Aileen Wuornos, you know, if she supposedly had done all these things. But the details never matched up to what she was saying. That what the police were saying on scene was something completely different than what she said that she did. You know, came through the front door, killed him with an axe, had all these accomplices, even though those accomplices had alibis. One of them was in another town for, like 30 miles away or something. And so I think they just kept her in there to make people feel safe, to be like, yeah, we caught him, we caught her, we got her. Y'all don't have to worry about it anymore, blah, blah, blah. Even though her story didn't match up, they convicted her. And I think that after 10 years, and she showed them that she's not stupid, she's not, crazy, they let her go. I don't think there was an operation that they did on her. I really don't. I'm just saying, I don't think there was. I think that they just said that so that they could let her go, and then they just completely dismissed everything she said. So the Louisiana axe murders goes unsolved to this day. Nobody knows who actually did it, even though Clementine gave herself up as one of the ones that is the one that did it. I honestly don't think it's possible. To swing axe that many times to kill whole families, whole ass families, is like, you either got to be really pissed off or on something to be. I mean, that, and she kept saying that they were using the chopping side of the axe when the person that was doing it actually wasn't. They were using the blunt side of the axe. I don't know if that was to reduce carnage. No, I'm sorry, getting attacked with the axe, you're going to get some messed up. It's going to get messy. It's going to get messy. And, the fact of her saying that she hugged them to her heart and all this other stuff, and to say that she killed them because they didn't obey God, it does make a good story, I'm telling you. So, Clementine, I'm telling you, you have one hell of an imagination, and this one was a trip to research. Let me tell you guys, it was absolutely insane that she threw her own dad under the bus for these murders, even though she had known nothing about these murders. She was just going off what she was hearing as a housekeeper and what she was seeing in the newspaper. So, anyways, that's today's story, you guys, and I hope y'all enjoyed it. I will be back here on Thursday. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. And if nobody's told you, I love you, and have a great day. Much love.